And joining us in studio, we have Mr. Sbusiso Ndlovu. He is a political analyst. Nomazocho Memani is an advocate and an ANC Youth League, Women's League member. And we have Bilitso Teti, ANC political commissar, and Zamo Madala Black Empowerment Foundation spokesperson. Good evening to you, and thanks so much for joining us. Let me just start with you, Memani. These emails, leaked emails, and all sorts of other shenanigans happening now in this political climate, Deputy President now being a casualty thereof. What do you make of it?
It is difficult because of the timing, of course. But then the activity, I regard, as a woman and as a gender activist and a feminist, I regard it as an immoral act for a man not to be able to control his zip. I'm not necessarily specifying or talking to Ramaphosa. I'm just saying it to all men there, because it has been happening in political leaders. You remember the Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky in America, and then it has been happening. And when men, they go with these things, and then they are they are regarded as heroes. Like, for example, besides the political climate now in South Africa or within the ANC, besides that, when a man goes out and get involved into these extramarital affairs, they are always praised. But when it is a woman is called names. They are called Izifebe, the prostitutes and all those funny names. They are derogated. But when it comes to men, and then you find even women, projecting such behavior, I find it to be an immoral
still the issue about patriarchy being prevalent in society, but and we can't verify any of these emails independently because we know as much as what's in the public domain.
Yes.
But with the Deputy President, he hasn't really explicitly denied the content of the emails, and as opposed to him on Friday evening going to court to interdict. What do you make out of what's come out, or how the Deputy President has handled it? Is it about the content, or is it more about how it was obtained? Commissar.
I think the way it's happening, it's quite a tendency nowadays, especially the public, the people who are really important in the society. And I think they've gone wrong. As a movement, I believe that they've gone wrong. When what they've done to the President Zuma, these were allegations. They were flying all over the newspaper. Now, what they've done also to the Deputy President, you'll find is a very similar approach. Now, I am shocked. That's why I'm saying that our comrades, they've lost track by not honoring or respecting our constitution of the movement. Because if you check clearly in our Rule 5.1.3 of the African National Congress, they say that a member is entitled to what you call a constructive criticism, to offer constructive criticism to any member, to any official, to any program, policy, or to any activity of the ANC. So if you feel you're not happy about a particular comrade is a womanizer, you call it, right in the meeting of the ANC, you call him straight, you tell him straight what he is, so that when you go out, that is why when you fight your wife, you don't fight her in the public. You take her in your bedroom and discuss your affairs and come out smiling to other kids. Because the picture we are painting to the world is not a nice picture. Yeah,
Commissar is saying that the decorum is essentially lost in how these matters are now portrayed in the public space. Where, Zamo, in your view, whether we should be concerned about what happens behind closed doors, and more specifically, how the Deputy President seemed to have been very, he was caught off guard in terms of this expose, just based on his reaction.
Good evening, Cindy, panelists, and the viewers. Well, our position as a Black Empowerment Foundation is quite simply the following. There has been no male politician that has suffered consequences as a result of their sexual behavior or indiscretions or whatsoever, as Mama was stating there. So, in our opinion, we believe this is but just another smear tactic that could work either way. What we are more interested in is to hear from the Deputy President his positions on policy. Where does he stand on radical economic transformation? How would he implement it? The people he surrounded himself with, his connections to business. It's out there in the public domain that his campaign is, the funding side of it is mainly being looked after by white members of our society. It's all those things that are more pertinent to us to understand in terms of his leadership, where he will take us. But the issues of patriarchy, I think we all have to address sooner rather than later. Can you just imagine that in this presidential campaign, there are women? If such a story came out about one or the other women that are going for this position, would we be having this debate? Probably not. Because she would have been called names and all kinds of things by now. So yes, that has to be addressed, but it's not a specific Cyril Ramaphosa issue. I think it's a greater societal issue that we all have to face.
All right, Zabo, please stay on the line. Spusiso Ndlovu, political analyst, also joins us. Just your reaction on the response from Deputy President saying that state apparatus has been used, to hack into his private emails, also denying that he had any relationships besides one he had 8 years ago that he confessed to. How, in your view, has this been handled?
Cindy, thank you very much for having me on the studio, and thank you for asking that critical question. For me, the logic and the theoretical understanding to the whole tobacco, it's not about the timing and the matter of conference around the corner, but the issue here is whether the matters which are raised are legit. If then the Deputy President is saying that his email were hanged, now he is saying to us that the evidence which were presented before us is true. Because for him to say his private emails were hanged, it means he's telling us that the information which were obtained is the correct information. So now let us not raise the issue of timing of the conference, but let us raise the genuine questions around this matter. Whether is it true that the allegations which were put forward are the real true sense of the matter. And then the issue of hierarchical status in our society is that we know, all of us, that women have been subjected for many years in our country, have been seen as slaves for men. But that in itself, it must change for now. Women, they must take a position and stand up and agitate the issues that affects them. If then these women are affected, then they sit back not addressing or coming forward and question some of these matters, then it's, for me, it's disingenuous for them too.
Commissar, do you think that there are contradictions, though? And as Mr. Ndlovu was saying, that perhaps the right approach would have been maybe to come clean as opposed to questioning the legality or the state apparatus casting aspersions that there may be people that are plotting against him.
Now, I would say that is very much normal, because as a public figure, expect that they check you up to the whole group, checking you, what type of a person, because we are going to lead a society here. There will be nothing should be hidden from the public, so that when people really attack you, they must attack you and accept. Because when they attack you, it does not mean that they hate you. They attack you just to satisfy themselves about the person. We want to make him the leader of the society. I think on those things, because remember that as a movement, as the African National Congress, this rule 3.6 states clearly that as the African National Congress, we shall support the emancipation of women in all respects. From the previous legacy, which they found themselves, whereby they were triple oppressed. They were not seen as human beings. But we have made an agreement as a movement that we are going to push that program to make sure that their voices are heard.
And we do understand that some of the women feel that they are now under scrutiny unfairly so. And as we said, we can't verify with certainty the content of the emails, but safe to say that they have been obtained, and there are certain questions that need to be raised about the impact that this will have on the campaign of the Deputy President. Mani, maybe you can give us your view in terms of whether this impacts him or whether it is one of those issues that are not necessarily, scandalous enough, for lack of a better word.
You see, because as I've raised the issue of patriarchy that is dominant in the society, people will think that it is not scandalous. But I think for women, they must take these issues serious, because this is a scandal as far as I'm concerned. Like I've indicated earlier on, that this behavior, it must be regarded as an immoral behavior. Because when it is a woman who does those things, women are called names, women are judged, women are crucified. You understand? Like, for example, if, let's say, this matter, if these emails were related to the other 3 women candidates, the tone out there would have been different from what is happening today. So I really regard this as serious, and I think the ANC Women's League, because I will take it back to the ANC Women's League, it has been having conferences. They are talking about the gender equality, they are talking about equality, they are talking about all those other things. But then within talking about, they talk about these things at a high level. They need to scrutinize and detail each and everything that affects
I beg your
women.
pardon, my
Thanks.
queen. In your view, whether this will taint, the presidential hopes of Deputy President?
Certainly, yes. Because, if this has been a case in many campaigns in the world where the presidential candidate is being implicated in matters such as like this, we have seen in Clinton campaign in America how the emails which were linked, in the public scrutiny were put into public. And then suddenly, yes, she lost the election. But whether now these South Africans will see it, especially members within the ANC, whether they will see this as a disgrace to leaders such as Cyril Ramaphosa to be voted as a leader, or members within the ANC, they will say, no, we reconcile him, we understand he's a human being. But my logic and my understanding is that we need now a leader who will understand the issues of women and the rights of women, because you cannot say I can represent South Africa and the entire country if while you don't take issues of women seriously. So we need to take all aspects of our society into consideration, including the issues of women, putting women in forefront. So she's correctly saying when she's saying if it was other presidential candidate who are contesting to that matter, the other female, for an example, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, who has been named in many names for having been in a relationship with the president. If it was her, you would have seen the rhetoric within our society.
Yeah. So Zamawa, can we separate government or governance with morality? Some arguing that, these are bedroom shenanigans or, indiscretion, as you were saying, that it shouldn't necessarily matter, that, their private lives need to be put aside. Can we separate the two?
In a sense, yes, but in reality, we shouldn't. We've just come from a Women's Month where there was just way too much violence against women in our country. We had a deputy minister slapping a girl around. We had women murdered. We had a teacher murdered in front of the kids. So in general, we do have too much violence. So at the end of the day, it has to come from the top. It can't just be said at the bottom. So the leaders at the top also have to carry responsibility. But in terms of it having an effect on the deputy president's campaign per se, I say it's a double-edged sword. Yes, it will affect some negatively, and then some will double down and say we will support him nonetheless. But what should matter is what does the deputy president stand for, and how will he implement the ANC policies going forward? That much I haven't heard from him.
Kommissar, if these things are found to be true, because we're told there's going to be more leaks, etc., and the plot will thicken, as it were, that can the deputy president recover from this? Because as we've already discussed, that his initial denial was that the emails are being hacked. We see support around him saying that it's a campaign to tarnish his image. But Do you think he can survive this?
Yeah, you see, the starting point, he should have accepted that and stated the era when these things happened. If they do happen at this time, and also throw it to the public and accept and throw it to the public and say, yes, I've done this. And I was aware that really, I'm not really pulling according to what the ANC want me to do. You see, I have to retain the dignity of women, but I haven't done the right thing, because, I mean, if you become in love to that woman and you throw me away tomorrow, I'm not marrying him. The old culture was better, because if you are in love with somebody, you already send them a lobola, you get married to that woman. At least you avoid from exploitation. That woman must be exploited. But take and drop, it's not a fair thing. We are just dealing with this allegation. But if he has confessed himself that, yes, this is what is happening, that will show that he's a man enough, that is the man can be trusted by the country.
Yeah, does it, in your view, Mimiman, also cast almost doubt for the mere fact that there has been infidelity before, and for the presidential hopeful of the country, that he should be scrutinized, because he would then represent the aspirations of everybody. Are you of that view that we cannot separate morality or the leadership, irrefutable leadership qualities when it comes to governments?
Oh yes, definitely, because once you become a public figure, you know, everything of yours, your lifestyle, your private life becomes a scrutiny of the public, because you are, you know, you are a leader. So there's no way that you can, right enough, we know in terms of the Constitution, a person has got a right to privacy. But then when it comes to public figures, it becomes difficult, because your life it's open, and then everybody has a right to scrutinize you, to say negatives and positives about your life, and also your lifestyle, and also your behavior to that matter.
Yeah, but we obviously, again, would have to question the content and see how the story unfolds or develops. We did see a deputy president arguing that these emails are doctored or they were acquired illegally, etc. Is that sufficient reason to then let the story die, Mr. Ndlovu?
No, certainly no. You can't let the story die without investigation. We need to investigate and find out the truth as to what happened. We need to find the content of the emails, whether it's true or not. For me to say the story should vanish, no, it's not like that. Some of us who in the media knows very well, we know that the media has a certain theory to push, but this one is not a certain theory that the media is trying to push. But the media as well must help the society to investigate and put the truth to the society. If you let stories like this die, now other people will keep on committing the very same offense in future, because they will have the president, the foundation that that and that was let go. But this one should not let go. It should be investigated and find the content of the email, as it was legit or not. It should be investigated.
Yeah. Zamo, again, if this were true, do you think that the deputy president can afford to let the story even develop further? Others, analysts were saying that, you know, maybe you should just confess and come clean. Komasawa was saying if there's even more skeletons, smaller nyana skeletons, you might as well get those out of the way. As Barack Obama in the audacious hope, his book, in coming clean with all things that he knew would tarnish his reputation.
Well, I personally believe that the deputy president has allowed it to go further, because he has said that his emails were hacked by state resources. In that note, it is expected that he will be writing to the Inspector General of Intelligence to ask if state resources were used in this matter, because obviously that would need to be taken up. It's an abuse of state resources for political battles. I suppose in that sense it also brings the 200,000 or so Gupta emails. How did those come about? So I suppose there's more to it than meets the eye at the moment, and yeah, we shall see.
Kommissar, your view in that regard on the best way. I mean, you can't spin this either way. I mean, the truth ultimately will have to come out.
Yeah, what is happening, that was is already in the public domain. what we need to do now is just to make sure that it's investigated, just like any one body which is in government, holding a high position. They need to be investigated. And of course, out of these allegations, if it's clean, it becomes clean out of it, then there's no problem. And there's no, we do not have anything against him or what. We just wanted to know the truth, because this is going to become the leader. The way we have done to other leaders, let us also apply the very same method also to get the whole information from.
Yeah, but I mean, if we just take maybe the genesis of the story in the sense that emails were sent to the Deputy President by Mr. Steve Mutale to say, please respond, these are the allegations we have for you, so we're giving you a right of reply before we go to print. And the Deputy President decided to go to court instead. What do you make of that, Nememan?
Yeah, it becomes difficult, you see, because everybody, is protected by the law. And then everybody can use any, legal, any legality in order to protect him or herself. That's a legal part. That is the legal part of the story. But then, the political part of it, like Komisang is saying, if let's say he goes to the organization and then it comes up clean, and then the organization can deal with the matter, but then still, I think the ANC Women's League must take these things very, very serious, because it is women who are suffering. Because even those, besides these emails, you do not know even those relationships how were they. You'll find that it was an abusive relationship. You use a woman in order to advance your interest, and then you find that the woman was not, those women were not even having like the equal participation in the relationship. We're
going to have to leave it there. Thanks indeed for your time. As always, Busiso Ndlovu, political analyst, and we have Ramaphosas Memani, an advocate, and she's with the ANC Women's League, and Billy Tsotetsi is ANC political commissar, Zamo Madala, a spokesperson for the Black Empowerment Foundation. Thanks for watching. We'll take a quick ad break. We'll see you shortly.